Hello, dear friends. As I experience the 82nd spring of my life, looking back, I see that some decisions have been far more challenging than others. Perhaps one of the most difficult was a decision, suggested by my family's love and concern, to move into a nursing home. I was told I'd be safe, cared for, and surrounded by people who could help me. It sounded so logical, even comforting, but the reality I encountered here was nothing like I had imagined. Today, I'm sharing these thoughts with you, not with bitterness or anger. My sole purpose is to prevent someone watching this video from making the same mistake. Because once this choice is made, going back is not at all easy. Nursing home life doesn't just change your address. It deeply affects your independence, your identity, and your daily sense of purpose. In this video, I will share 7 harsh realities that I wish I had known before moving into a nursing home. Some might surprise you. Some might tug at your heartstrings, but all are true. If you or someone you love is considering this path, I hope these reflections will help you make a careful evaluation. So, let's begin at the very beginning, with the first reality that has been most painful for me, what losing independence truly means. I remember my first morning in the nursing home, like it was yesterday. As always, I woke up expecting to start my day slowly, with a warm cup of coffee and a quiet piece of my own space. But instead, my door was knocked on before the sun was even fully up, and I was reminded that breakfast would be served shortly. Not asked, not offered, just told. It was in that moment that I first deeply felt that loss. At home, I decided when I would eat, when I would sleep, when I would go out. Now, it felt like even deciding when to get out of bed wasn't really up to me. I told myself it was just an adjustment period, but as the days passed, I realized this wasn't temporary. My schedule, my preferences, my routines were no longer my own. I had entered a world that operated on someone else's time. It might seem small, but the truth is, independence isn't just about making big decisions. It's about the little things too. What you wear, what you eat, whether you want to socialize. In the nursing home, even going for a walk outside usually required permission or assistance. I had to wait for someone to be available, and sometimes that meant missing the sun. I stopped cooking, stopped deciding what groceries to buy, and slowly, without even realizing it, I stopped feeling like myself. I became a resident, not a person with preferences, but someone expected to fit into a system designed for efficiency, not individuality. And the more I adapted, the more I lost myself. You stop voicing your desires because you learn that compliance is easier. If you're watching this and considering a nursing home for yourself or a loved one, I urge you to ask yourself this simple but powerful question. Am I ready to give up the small freedoms that make my daily life feel like my own? Because when they're gone, you'll miss them more than you expect. That morning coffee in your favorite chair, that quiet walk taken without a second thought, those little choices, they might seem insignificant now, but they are what weave the fabric and meaning of your days. I wish someone had told me these things before I moved in. Independence isn't just about doing things on your own. It's about feeling like you still have a say in your own life. And when that feeling starts to fade, it's incredibly hard to get back. If you're still with me and these words have resonated with you, please leave a comment below with a 1. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so we can stay connected through heartfelt stories like this. But this is just the beginning. Now, let's move on to another reality that cuts even deeper. What it feels like to be forgotten. 2. The feeling of being forgotten. When I first moved into nursing home, my daughter hugged me tightly and promised she would visit every week. And at first, she did. She brought the grandchildren. We played cards, we laughed, and we talked about everything just like always. For a while, it felt like one foot was still in my old life, and the other was in this new one. But as the weeks turned into months, the visits turned into phone calls, and then into text messages. The holidays, once filled with voices, the smells from the kitchen and happy chaos, turned into quiet afternoons spent in a communal lounge, hoping for the door to open. I wasn't angry. I understood that life outside moves fast, that people are busy, but even understanding didn't stop the feeling of being forgotten. Out of sight really can mean out of mind, and it hurts in a way that no one warns you about. When you're in a place where your care is provided for and scheduled, it's easy to assume that your emotional needs will also be met. but they're not. No planned activity or bingo game can replace the feeling of being seen and remembered by the people you love. I remember one evening sitting on my bed, my phone in my hand, hesitating about whether to call my son. I watched his name on the screen, my thumb hovering over it, my heart beating fast. I didn't want to seem needy, didn't want to remind him that I was still here waiting. I never made that call, and in that moment, I understood how easily you can lose your voice when it feels like no one is listening. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: am I prepared to become a background character in the lives of people I once saw every day? If you're still watching this video and these words touch you, please leave a comment below with a 2. If you haven't subscribed yet, I kindly ask you to do so. It helps me share stories like mine with others who might need to hear them. Feeling forgotten isn't about not being loved. It's about becoming invisible. If you're a family member watching this, let this be a gentle reminder. Your presence matters more than you might think. A short visit, a 5-minute phone call, even a handwritten note can mean the world. And if you're the one facing this decision, talk to your family now. Be honest about what that connection means to you and how much you need it. Because the truth is, the further away you are, the easier it becomes for people to assume you're doing fine, even when you're not. Point 3. The silent pain of losing purpose. Before moving into the nursing home, my mornings had meaning. I would wake up, make my own coffee, tend to my plants by the window, and write a few lines in my journal. These small rituals gave me a reason to start the day. They might not have meant much to others, but they were mine. I had things to do, decisions to make, responsibilities to carry. But after moving, those small daily anchors slowly disappeared. Meals were prepared and served at the same times every day. My room was cleaned, my laundry was taken and returned folded. At first, it felt like a relief. No more chores, no more rushing. But soon, I started to feel like a passenger in my own life. There was no longer a reason to get up early. Nothing awaited me. The days began to blur together. I remember meeting George, an 84-year-old who had spent his life working with his hands. He was a carpenter, built furniture, fixed fences, and loved helping his neighbors with odd jobs. Here, there were no tools, no projects, no purpose. One day, I found him sitting quietly in the corner of the activity room, just looking at his hands. "I used to build things," he said softly. "Now I just wait for the next meal." It struck me deeply because I felt the same way. When we lose the opportunity to contribute, to care for something, we begin to feel irrelevant. Purpose isn't always about grand achievements. It's about knowing that your existence matters, that you still have something to give, no matter how small. Without it, even the most comfortable place can feel empty. If you're still watching this and reflecting on your own life, please leave a comment below with a 3. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. It helps me share these heartfelt truths with others who might be quietly wondering the same things. For anyone considering a nursing home, I urge you to ask, what currently gives my life meaning? And can that purpose still thrive in a place where everything is done for me? If not, think carefully. Purpose doesn't have to end just because routines change, but you might have to fight harder to hold on to it in a place where independence is diminished. You might need to advocate for your own interests, find small ways to stay engaged, and ask yourself every morning, what meaningful thing will I do today? Because without purpose, even the best intentions of care can feel like a slow detachment from who you truly are. 4. How quickly your health can decline when you stop moving. When I first came to the nursing home, I felt pretty good for my age. I could still walk on my own, make my bed, and even do some gentle stretches every morning to keep my joints loose. I thought that even though I was moving, I wouldn't slow down. At home, I stayed active without even thinking about it. Cooking my own meals, sweeping the floor, walking back and forth around the house. But here, everything was done for me. Meals were brought to my chair, laundry was taken and returned folded. I no longer had to stand at the stove or bend down to pick something up. At first, it was nice, like a well-deserved rest. But then one day, I noticed something that deeply concerned me. I tried to get up from a soft armchair, and I struggled. My legs felt weaker, my knees complained. It took me a second attempt to stand. I was surprised how different I felt after just a few months. I wasn't alone. My neighbor down the hall, Alice, was 81 when she first arrived. She was a vibrant woman, went for a walk every day, and said she wasn't going to let age slow her down. But one day she needed a walker, and a few weeks later, she was confined to a wheelchair. "I feel like I've aged 10 years in just a few months," she told me quietly, and I understood. It wasn't just the aging process. It was a result of doing less, moving less, challenging ourselves less. When everything is designed to make life easier, you forget that effort is what keeps your body alive. Muscles atrophy when you don't use them, joints stiffen, energy fades, and before you know it, the body that used to carry you with ease starts to feel like a burden. If you're still watching this video and this resonates with you, please leave a comment below with a 4. If you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so. It helps us reach more people who might need these gentle reminders. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: will I be motivated to keep moving even when everything around me says I don't need to? Because when moving becomes optional, it slowly disappears. The key is to keep doing what you can, even when help is offered. Stand when you can, walk a little further than you did yesterday. Do small stretches in bed. Advocate for your own activity if you want to stay active, because no one else will do it for you. Staying still might feel safe, but staying strong requires action, and if you wait too long, it might not be so easy to regain that strength. 5. The quiet erosion of privacy and dignity. I'll never forget the first time someone walked into my room without knocking. I was getting dressed that morning, moving a bit slowly, when the door just opened and a staff member called out, "Just checking in." She meant no harm. She was kind. She was doing her job. But in that moment, something shifted inside me. At home, my space was sacred. My bedroom door was mine. My mornings were mine. In the nursing home, that sense of personal space began to dissolve. I learned that privacy wasn't guaranteed. It was granted when convenient. And dignity, too, slowly eroded. When you need help using a restroom or taking a shower, you start to feel less like the person you once were, and more like someone being managed. It's not intentional, not malicious, but it's impersonal. It's a hard adjustment, and one that no one really prepares you for. There was a man named James who moved in around the same time as me, a proud Marine veteran, tough as nails, always stood ramrod straight even in his late 80s. But I remember watching one day as someone helped him shave, even though he didn't want it, just because it was on the schedule. He didn't protest, but you could see his eyes at the moment, as small as it seemed, was a quiet surrender. You stop wearing the clothes you choose because practicality dictates. You share a room with someone you've never met before and hope their habits don't keep you up all night. You start to feel like you're living under constant observation, and even the smallest personal decisions require permission. Over time, something inside you changes. You start to feel like a guest in your own life. If you're still watching this and these words resonate with your own concerns or experiences, please leave a comment below with a 5. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I urge you to do so, as it helps us keep these important conversations going. For those considering a nursing home, think carefully about how much your privacy means to you, because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. While some places try to offer dignity and respect, the very nature of communal care makes it nearly impossible to live with the same autonomy you once knew. This isn't about blame, it's about reality. Ask yourself, how much am I willing to sacrifice for safety and support? And is there a way to still hold on to my independence while receiving help? You deserve to feel like a person, not just someone being looked after. Because dignity doesn't disappear overnight. It's chipped away bit by bit until one day you realize it's gone 0.6. How difficult it can be to leave once you're in. When I moved into nursing home, I told myself it was just for a little while, a temporary stop, a trial period. My family reassured me too. Try for a month, they said, and if you don't like it, you can always come home. And I believed them. I even left some of my belongings at my house, thinking I might be back soon. But within weeks, I realized something no one had warned me about. Leaving wouldn't be as easy as coming in. My house sat empty, and managing it from afar quickly became complicated. My children started making changes, donating furniture, selling things, getting it ready to rent out. They meant well, but it felt like my old life was being packed away while I was still trying to breathe. And slowly, the idea of going home became more and more distant, not just emotionally, but logistically, physically, and financially. My strength had declined more than I had expected. Things that used to be a breeze, walking up the stairs, cooking a meal, even just opening a jar, suddenly felt daunting. I no longer trusted my legs the way I used to, and the fear of falling or failing kept me frozen. I met a woman named Esther who had a similar story. She had moved in after a fall, planning to recover and go home. But months passed, and by the time she finally felt ready, her house had already been sold. She had nowhere to go back to. They said it was for the best, she told me, but it wasn't my choice. And that's the hardest part. A decision you think you're making for yourself can quietly turn into an irreversible one. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave, not just physically, but emotionally. If you're still watching this and this message resonates deeply, please leave a comment below with a 6. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. It helps us reach more people who are quietly facing life-changing moments like this. The truth is, once you're in a nursing home, the systems around you, your family's expectations, your health, your finances, they all start to shift and not always in your favor. That's why it's so crucial to think carefully before taking that first step. Ask yourself, what will it take for me to leave if I want to? And will I still have the strength, the support, and the resources to do so? Because even with the best intentions, returning to independence is often much harder than we imagine. If you're considering this move, be prepared for both the short term and the long term. Know your options, protect your choices, because leaving might be possible, but only if you still have something to go back to. 7. The often overlooked mental health struggles. Mildred was one of the first people I met after moving into the nursing home. She was quiet, always kind, and never caused any trouble. She smiled when spoken to and occasionally participated in group activities. But there was a sadness behind her eyes that I think most people missed. I started to notice how often she would sit alone by the window, staring out at nothing in particular. One afternoon, I asked her how she was doing. She looked at me and whispered, "I feel like I'm disappearing." That moment stayed with me. You see, in nursing homes, we often talk about physical health, mobility, blood pressure, medications, but we rarely talk about emotional well-being. Yet, mental health is just as important as physical health. Depression, anxiety, and loneliness are rampant among older adults in long-term care, but they often go unnoticed or unaddressed. Because we expect quiet, we mistake it for peace. The truth is, losing your home, your routine, and sometimes your sense of identity takes a toll on the heart and mind. Many residents, like Mildred, start to withdraw, not because they're difficult, but because they feel unseen. I saw it happen again and again. People stop opening up, stop voicing their needs, and eventually stop believing that their feelings even matter. Sometimes medications mask the symptoms. Sometimes staff are too busy to notice the subtle shifts in mood, and often we ourselves, having been conditioned to be strong, don't know how to talk about how we're really feeling. But bottling up sadness or worry doesn't make it go away. It just deepens a sense of isolation. And the longer it goes unaddressed, the harder it becomes to ask for help. If you're still watching this and any of this connect with you, please leave a comment below with a 7 so I know you're out there. If you haven't subscribed yet, I urge you to do so. It helps this channel grow and gets these conversations to others who might need to hear them. If you're considering a nursing home, or if you've already moved into one, please remember this. Your mental health is just as vital as your physical health. If you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling guilty, if you feel like something else is taking over your physical well-being, you deserve to be heard, to be supported, and to feel emotionally safe. If you're feeling down, anxious, or disconnected, speak up. Talk to a counselor, talk to a nurse, talk to a trusted family member. And if you're a family member watching this, ask your loved one not just if they're okay, but how they're truly feeling, whether they're engaged, whether they feel seen and connected. Emotional well-being isn't a luxury. It's essential for a life worth living. And the sooner we start honoring that truth, the better we can care for ourselves and each other. Now, let's move on to a few final thoughts. Because even after all these realities, there is still hope and there are still options. Let's talk about what we can take away from what we've just heard. Looking back at the realities I've shared, losing independence, feeling forgotten, letting go of purpose, declining health, the loss of privacy, the difficulty of leaving, and the emotional toll of being overlooked, it's clear that moving into a nursing home is more than just a change of address. It's a shift in identity, in routine, and in connection. This doesn't mean that every nursing home experience is the same. Some are undoubtedly better than others. But my aim today wasn't to criticize, but to prepare you, to offer the insights I wish I had before making such a life-altering decision. If you're watching this, I want you to know that you still have choices. Whether you're thinking about your own future or helping a loved one, take the time to evaluate all the options. In-home care, part-time support, or assisted living that offers more freedom might be better ways to hold on to parts of life that make you feel alive while still staying safe. Remember, small decisions like asking questions, setting boundaries, or maintaining routines can make a big difference in how you feel every day. If this video has helped you in any way, please share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Your words might help someone else feel less alone. And if you haven't already, I invite you to like this video and subscribe for more honest and heartfelt content. Thank you for spending this time with me. I wish you strength, joy, and good health at every age. Until next time, please take care of yourselves and never stop advocating for the life you deserve.